What's going on, good folks? It's your boy Cutting Kev, or Mr. LRP, and the place to be right here on the Couch Chronicles. I got my longtime brother, friend here from another, Mr. Mikael K. Man, talk to the people. Let them know who you are and what you got going on, man.
Peace, love, and light. My name is Mikael. I'm a spiritual teacher. I'm a herbalist. I'm a personal trainer. I also am an activist for the community, specifically the black community. Truly working and pushing to getting back to self-sufficiency amongst our community and learning to teach our people how to establish back a true community, tribalism, and nation building.
That's solid. That's solid. So, I mean, if you had to break it down in layman's terms for the folk at home that's like, what is this man talking about? What is it that your pursuit, your passion, what is it that you're doing for your community and just for the world right now?
As I grow and as I teach others spirituality and history, what I've learned is for a person to know where he's going in the future, he must first go back to his past. And so I believe in the restoration of our families. We can't talk about nation, we can't talk about tribalism, we can't even talk about community if we don't reestablish the black family. And so my mission in this dispensation and time in this season is to help black people specifically reestablish the families. And what I mean by that is actually having a natural father and a natural mother in the home, and raising their children by our education, raising them up on our food, our diet, and raising them up in our culture. And that means in whatever spirituality walk you walk in is putting them back in a space that detaches us from the same ones who brought us over here.
That's good. That's good. So, I mean, what you're talking about is something that's not really seen, especially in our culture, but I would just say in general, as far having that two-parent household or even just having a family or a village to raise up our young. Right. So, getting into that, I just got to edify just a little bit. Y'all, he's being very modest about what he's got going on. The growth in this young man has been absolutely amazing. I've known him for over a decade now. And just to see his absolute growth it's been stupendous. It's been one that is confusing. It's been one that's been challenging. Just being able to destroy your past and being able to go ahead and break through into what you're truly meant to do and who you're truly meant to be. It's been an absolutely amazing walk. And I just want to acknowledge that and say that I'm proud of you, bro. I'm proud of you for sure. For sure. But I want to get back into it. The holistic healing and methods that you've been spitting and preaching about on social media, man. You've been consistent. You've been diligent in doing so. Talk to the people about why is it that you do that and what is it that you're doing as far as the holistic healing?
I think the major thing we should focus on in the word is holistic. And what does that mean? I mean, the root of that is whole. You know, yeah. We're whole. Yeah. And when you look at our community, are we a whole people? The answer is no. We're still trying to find our identity. We're still trying to figure out who we should be. We're still following after images that has led us or kept us in darkness. And so holistic health is to understand the spirit, which leads to the mind, which the body reacts to what is manifesting in the mind. And so I believe when you have these three things on one accord, you become one. Whether you subscribe to the Bible, you know, when people talk about the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and these three are one. It's not that they're literally one, but they was on one accord in the mindset and understanding of what the ultimate mission was for the world. That's just like when we go into the better sheet, or as you know in the English Genesis, it says when a man marries his wife, he leaves his father and mother's house and become what? One. And so when you look at that, a body has many different parts. You have 2 feet, you have 2 knees, you have 2 legs, you have 2 hands, you have 10 fingers, you got elbows, you got 1 neck, you got 1 vertebrae, you got 1 head. But all these things agree in one. And so holistically, we have to understand the spirituality of who we are. And this is why we move the way we move. As soon as we hear a beat, it's not the beat itself, but a vibration that it puts out that moves us. That's why a human is made up of 80% of water. That's why we talk about vibrations and energy and all that. That's a real thing because you're moving to the sound waves of what's coming towards you. And so to be whole, meaning you have to detach from the vibration and energy that's putting you down to a lower vibration, and I will esteem you to a higher vibration. And so you can't have the mindset or even the figure to be a whole man if you don't understand spiritually who you are. So-called black man and woman was put on this earth to be gods. And what does that mean? And in reverences means to be the powers, the governors of the earth, the ones who had dominion over all earth. And so if the black man and woman is not in his right state of mind, spirituality, then how can he have dominion?
That's good. So you talk about this, and I want you to just go into just a little bit of specification when you talk about just the family, just the head, and then just going from the top down. Can you kind of break that down in terms of the household, and then the reason why that is, and how that incorporates and correlates to life?
So I'll ask you this question first. When was the last time the black family was strong? I mean whole and strong.
Before slavery?
No. It was strong then.
Right.
Most people actually pointed
Whole
back.
and strong?
Yeah, most people were pointing back to before Planned Parenthood, but it actually was in slavery. That's when we had to depend on each other the most. That's when then the women looked at us for strength. They looked at for guidance, right? That was the last time where we stuck together and we actually could identify on one accord who the enemy was. Now we're in an area, in this space, where we don't know who the enemy is. We don't know if it's a black man. We don't know if it's a black sister. We don't know if it's our grandparents. We don't know if it's our children. Yet we haven't figured out the same enemy that was then is the same enemy now. And does that mean we should have hate in our heart? No, because one, hate clouds judgment. All we talking about is identifying the problem. And the problem is this: we ain't identifying that we went to slavery together. We're not identifying that just like women was raped, brothers was raped too. We're not identifying that, yeah, mama, you did go into labor for 10 to 9 months and your baby was sold, but it was also that father's baby who was sold too. And so we often forget these things because what they have been promoting in our community since Planned Parenthood was individualism. And so we think in our community, if one has success, we all have success. But that's just not really the case, because if that was the case, we have many Black Wall Streets around here. Floyd Mayweather is one of the richest people in the world. Yet we don't see the communities the way they should be. Imagine you have Floyd Mayweathers, LeBron James, Oprah, Tyler Perry, all these people who express in some type of way, he went talking about coronavirus, right? Express some type of camaraderie or joining, but then you ask them and look into the community and say, what have you actually done for the community? And what communities are there? There's nothing there. Now I'll give LeBron James that. I'll give him that. But still, in a sense, it's a contradiction, because you're still promoting our children on taking the enemy's education.
Elaborate on that.
So meaning this, what do they really teach in these predominantly white schools? Do they teach real African history? They say African American history. Do they teach African history? Do they teach you how to be self-sufficient and go back to your community? Because typically, if you take away Black people, Caucasians are actually practicing community, because it's their education. They get free rides. They don't have to pay for school because their fathers is good with the dean. They don't have to worry about loans and going to these different educational resources to get paid, to go to school to get paid. Right. But we do. We have to go in debt to get their education and use that education just to pay them back. So what are we really doing here? When you look at what we're doing, we can even talk about Black businesses. We all got businesses in here. You have to go to your enemy to get a resource. You want a loan, small business loan, you got to go to him. You want LRP clothing, you have to use his clothing line. And then use his company just to put your label on his company.
Ooh, that's good. That's good. That's good.
And so the point is not to hate, but getting back to loving thyself. And when I mean self, I don't mean me personally. I mean loving our community, because you look like me and we share the same sorrows. Therefore, we have to share the same success. And so that's what it means to truly be holistic, is to understand that we have to be on one accord together. And we all got different parts of the body. The head is the creator of heaven and earth. That's the head of this thing. Through his son, or whatever spirituality you look at, there's a straight line. We are just vessels. So I'm not going to have everything. That means I have to go to my brother who can teach me, and I can add on to him. This is what the other people do. They use their resources amongst each other and build each other up. If you look at the whole entire world, there's literally only 18 families that run the whole earth. I didn't say organizations, I said families. 18 families run the whole earth. Guess who they learn how to be organized to come together from? Us. Us. When you look at the dark ages, right? 1,000 years, they said it was dark, and it was darkness upon the earth, and all these evil people ruled. What they're saying, what they're trying to say is really it was dark people. It wasn't darkness, it was dark people for 1,000 years who ruled the earth, who came together around a round table and agreed on one accord.
And the practices would go into that black magic.
And so in their eyes, it was a dark time.
Come on.
But for us, it was a royal time. Come on, think about it. Africa don't really need no other people, because life started there. Your food resource, the clay that's in Georgia right now comes from Africa. They're paying billions of dollars in Africa to bring that clay over here, where you can walk freely in that clay in Africa. We are the source. And as soon as we figure that out, the sooner we'll understand that we got the power. Just imagine all black people really pull out of Walmarts. I mean, just one day, we all on one accord and say, we ain't shopping at Walmart. How did man originally fall? By men. The world, sin didn't come into the world by Eve. It came into it by men. Adam. Think about it. Yeah, she took her the fruit and was seduced. But if you really read slowly, sin didn't enter into the world till Adam followed her and partook in that sin. Then darkness came upon the earth, just like a household. If a man does not work, he does not eat. Therefore, his family cannot eat. And so when we understand of stop blaming the black woman, and black woman has to stop blaming the black man and say, we got to get this on one accord. And so the start is to that question is, brothers got to come together and say, let's put the differences aside, whether that be doctrine, beliefs, whatever the case is. The common denominator, the common understanding of all this thing is our families. There's no argument in that, is it? Most of us in this room grew up with single parents. So we all got something in common. Most of us grew up with the same issue because we grew up with single parents. So we got something in common. So that's where we would start. What's the common fail in our community? And that's families. And the root of that is this. Most brothers is not growing up with their fathers. So therefore, we have to teach manhood. That's the start of it. Let's get back to coming together and teaching manhood, grabbing these young boys up and teaching them. You don't have to sell drugs. You don't have to push the rock. You don't have to, you ain't got to be an artist, a music artist. You ain't got to play sports.
Just to make it.
Let's learn how to first be self-sufficient. That's the most richest thing you could do. Think about it right now during this coronavirus. Ain't nobody think about these celebrities right now. And they ain't thinking about us. So your idols have been taken. So now what? Now what do? You got to rely on people you got to see every day now. This is the most beautiful time we in. Now black people actually got to depend on each other now.
Absolutely.
They got to depend on each other. You got to go find a black person who sells clothes. Now you got to find a black person who creates food. You got to find a black person who got all your necessities now, because all your precious resources have been cut short. And now you see this is a detox. This is a detox of black people now. Now you get to see the infirmities and infections and the parasites within you. Now you see the toxins, which is your enemy. Sometimes we are, and it's like a parasite, right? A parasite, once it enters into you, right, it seeps into your body and it looks for the weakest cells that it can feed on. And what we do is we give it food that promotes its eating, processed food. And so let's put that in parallel with black people is the parasite is the enemy, and we've been giving him our people to feed off of. And now, what are you going to do that the real cleanser, which is coronavirus, is setting in? And you're detoxing from your enemy now. Now you have to put in your body something that's going to rejuvenate it. You have to put in your body something that's going to restore it. And hopefully when you come out of it, you'll be a lot better than where you started at. And what's the key? Eating. The Edenic experience wishes to get back to the ancient past of your ancestors of self-sufficiency, self-reliance, and depending on one another. That's holistic living amongst our people, where it originated. You said it takes a village. Absolutely, it takes a village. It takes a village to be whole. It takes a village to heal. It takes a village to restore. It takes a village to lift one another up. And so it's going to take the same thing in this time. So for going back to the original question about what I promote is to be able to cleanse ourselves, cleanse our minds. And with cleansing our minds from the toxins of our enemy, we then allow the body to cleanse itself from the enemy. Therefore, now we can start the revitalization or the restoration of our people, which is us. We are the herb. We are literally the herb. We are the original herb. We are the one who cleansed the earth. Therefore, just like we are the ones who polluted the earth. You know, we no longer blame even if you want to come from the aspect of blaming our enemy in this situation, I totally agree. But where is that going to get us that we keep playing the blame game? It's like a man blaming a woman of why he can't be happy no more. If she ain't in the picture, why are we still talking about it? Why are we still talking about it? I always say this: if you can open your mouth to profess the problem, you then can open your mouth to profess the solution.
Easy, simple.
You know, the Holy Scriptures say this: so a man thinketh, so is he. Everything starts in the mind. But again, man has to know who's his spiritual resource first before talking about this. I always say you're going to serve two things. You're either going to serve God or you're going to serve devil. There's no in between here. There's no in between. And so if a man, which his first duty was to be a husbandman, that's where the word husband come from. It's an agricultural word, right? So now let's put in the aspect of husband, because we're talking about family, right? Restoration of family. Husband, husbandmen. What's the modern day word for husbandman? Farmer. And so what's the first thing a farmer must do before planting seed?
Prepare the soil.
He must prepare the soil, meaning he has to dig. And he has to till the ground and move all the toxic roots up out of that ground so he then can fertilize it and put the right nutrients and soil in it. So then he can actually put righteous seed in the earth to actually grow up in righteousness. And so it's the same thing going back to manhood and brotherhood is this. Now we got to get deep. Brothers got to stop going into women broken. How two broken people gonna fix each other? Women broken too. It's going back to slavery. We both went through slavery. We all going through post-traumatic slave syndrome. And so two broken people can't fix each other. That means it has to be somebody greater than yourself, meaning somebody who's already whole, to show you the path to become whole, so then you can take your woman and make her whole too. Brothers have to stop getting in situations looking for comfort. That's the purpose of how we restore our communities, when brothers actually understand their purpose. Your purpose is not to be under your woman. Your purpose is to establish and prepare a place for her so she can do for you.
Ooh, that's good. That's good. That's good. I mean, when you talk about pharmaceutical companies, you talk about the things that are supposed to heal us or supposed to help during this whole time. When I think about pharmacy, P-H-A-R, I think it's spelled pharmacy. F-A-R-M-C, pharmacy.
That's originally how it was spelled.
Wow, that's where it starts. So we get into this whole contradiction as far as Dr. Sebi and being able to cure and these outrageous miracle cures that come from just changing up your diet. Right. What do you say to those that say that and I've talked to a couple of doctors, nursing students, and they go into the whole science behind it. It's just not physically possible to go ahead and eat right in order to regain or get rid of this. So what do you say, or what's your advice when it comes down to replenishing your life source through what you eat than receiving it from a pill?
That's a great question. And I'm glad you brought up the doctors. It's like this. Can a lion tell me how to heal myself? Can it? Can a monkey tell me how to heal myself? Why can't he?
Y'all ain't speaking the same language.
How can somebody who doesn't look like me tell me what can fix me?
Wow, I hear you.
We don't have the same genetic build. Everybody wants to go to the saying of, we all bleed the same. We don't. We don't even have the same blood type. We don't have the same nose structure, nor do we have the same genetic build, nor skull structure. So how are you going to tell me how to heal me? It's going to take somebody who knows me. Just like going back to relationships. Brothers looking for Caucasian women to fill a void. Don't nobody know you better than a black woman. No, ain't nobody going to understand your struggle. Ain't nobody going to be able to actually put that pillow on your back to stand you up when you fall in like no black woman. So the same going when it comes to healing us. Can't nobody outside of us tell us how to heal ourselves. Case in point, we don't even have the same mineral count. We don't even intake the same herbs. They need silver herb to heal them when we take gold.
Right.
We get fed by natural sunlight. They slowly die. So how is somebody where nature is against them gonna tell us what nature can do for us?
Pulling us down.
You get what I'm saying? If you actually since we're talking about science, if you actually go into the scientific understanding of the sun, the moon, the stars, we literally have some of the same similar mineral and geneticism. That's why when we go outside, we're getting fed. That's why when we in the sun, we get darker. That's literally vitamin D, zinc, copper, everything going into your skin and feeding you. That's why when you go outside, although you may be feeling hot, but you feel a sense of energy.
Come on. So do you think there's a direct correlation in them telling us to lock down, stay inside, and we're starting to get sick, or
Absolutely. Fear is the reason we're getting sick. It's the reason we're getting sick. And so when we're not in our natural habitat or our natural sphere of energy, which is outside, guess what happens? We then start to lose our melanin. If you think about it, we don't get sick like them. The only reason we sick because we follow their diet. The natural man is made up of minerals and herbs and vitamins. Where can you find them things at? In herbs, you can find them in veggies, and you can find them in fruits. If we're supposed to be lively beings, why are we eating dead things? How can death bring you life? It has to make sense. And these are the questions I ask doctors. They try to tell me I should give my son a vaccine for what? Or a vitamin K shot when naturally the black man and woman after 8 days naturally creates vitamin K. What do I need to give him that for? You understand? And so how is anybody who doesn't understand me going to tell me what to do for me? And you talking about pills, it would be no pills without herbs. That's the true pharmaceutical. The true. They talking about vitamins. What does vitamins really mean? Vital minerals. Vital minerals. You see? And so we have to get back to what we're made of. I'm going to ask you a question. What's the strongest animal in the world?
Strongest animal in the world. Not the lion.
Nope.
King of the jungle, supposedly.
The strongest animal in the world is a silverback gorilla. What do they eat? They eat veggies and fruits, berries, nuts. And it's
Everything
funny
on the
that
earth.
they compare black people to gorillas.
Come on. Come on.
They tried to say that it's because we look like them. And in a sense, they were lying because we have a certain genetic build and genetic structure. And with that means you need certain minerals to keep that structure up.
Yeah.
And so we're very similar, and you're looking at a silverback gorilla, and he's eating veggies and berries and fruits, and he's the strongest animal in the world, and the only time he really goes outside of that is when he's sick. And what does he get? He gets herbs. What does that tell you about the black man and woman? And the problem is this: when they took us from our continent, they left our diet, they left our culture, they left our language, they left our land. All these three things coincide in one, because there's no land without the people, and the land provides the food for the indigenous people. So now we have to depend on whatever our enemy wants to eat, and he don't even know what to really eat. You know, I'm gonna tell you a story. My grandfather, I told you about, my grandfather had cancer about 3 years ago, right? And I was, going with him to his chemo or not. And the doctor suggested a meal plan. Could you believe on the meal plan it had pork? Now, what can an animal that not only eats his babies, eats his poop and his urine, and dies violently, what can that honestly do for this black man?
Nothing.
What nutrients or level of vibration can this animal get for a man who the very thing that he has, which is cancer, you're going to give back to him?
Kill him quicker, why don't you?
And that's the thing. Going back to the pills. What do the pills do? Do they name one healing case? Healing case of doctors from medicine. You won't find too many healing cases. They'll give you, they say cure, or they give you medicine to help with the symptoms. That's why they call it suppressant medicine. They don't say healing medicine, they say suppressant medicine. What does suppressant do? If you suppress something down, you soothing it, and all you're doing is putting it down, making it dormant. Is it still in the body? It's supposed to be able to flush you out, but it's not doing that. Same thing for chemo. I always tell people, don't if you can do without it, do not get chemo, because chemo is like this. Do they have any machine that can target the sick cells? So now what do during the chemo? They putting it over your body, and they may kill off those sick cells, but now guess what else they're killing off? All cells. And now, they may have gotten that problem, but now you got a whole nother problem now. And your body is filled with radiation, unnatural radiation at that.
Large amounts.
And now you got a whole nother issue, and you coming back in 6 months and you asking the doctor, what happened? Yeah, I don't feel this in this area, but now what's going on over here?
Right.
And so we have to understand the pharmaceutical business, the doctors, it's nothing but a business, literally. It's a business. It's a business. That's why they killed off Dr. Sebi. Because he actually had healing testimonies. He was actually healing people. Because they told the world that you can't be healed from AIDS. You can't be healed from HIV. They tried to put him in jail in the 90s, brought him to the Supreme Court. He had many cases of people standing up for him, and they had to let him go.
Yeah, they messing with business.
They messing with business. And that's the thing. They got this this law talking about the rise of the Black Messiah. Any man who speaks against their systems and is promoting self-sufficiency within their community is a threat to America. It's called the Black Messiah.
The Black Messiah.
The rise of the Black Messiah.
Come on. Man, I feel like we can do this all day. I want to close with this. As far we talked about the pharmaceutical companies, we talked about farming, being self-sustained, just the lockdown in general. I want you to go into depth really quickly, and any last words that you have for the people during the times that we're in now, because I'm a firm believer that the things that we're going through right now, life is going to look very different here in the next couple months, and life will never be the same. So what words do you have for the people, whether it be physically, mentally, and spiritually, in order for them to be protected through everything that's going on right now?
There's a quote in Job 8:8. It says, remember the former days and seek out the ancient paths of your ancestors. I would say in this time, seek out the ancient paths of your ancestors. What did we do before slavery? What did we eat? How did we sustain ourselves before slavery? And I think that will answer all the questions about what we should do in this time. Because anybody who's practicing that now, they're not worried about this coronavirus. Because we've seen it. I mean, we've survived 400 years of slavery. We've survived 400 years of oppression, depression, castration, murders. And we think this plague is going to ruin us. Well, we've survived this. If you understand the story of Moses, 10 plagues hit Egypt, but not one plague hit the Israelites. You know why? Because they was in unison on what we should do. And so I think that's the answer. When we become in unison on protecting ourselves in all things, spiritually, mentally, and physically, we ain't got nothing to worry about.
Heard it first. You heard it first. You actually probably have heard this more than one time, but you're hearing it live right now. Major jewels, major knowledge. I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you. We appreciate you. And that's what we wanted to go ahead and bring from our Couch Chronicles. It's just really just some self-taught healing. We want to go ahead and bring about just the education. You have to do the work. You have to do the work. You have to go ahead and do the research. Don't trust man's word. You need to go and do the work, do the research. So we just want to go ahead and bring about a personal perseverance, personal experience that's really doing the work out here in the world right now. So we'll check in with you later. This is Couch Chronicles, Cut and Kev. See you later.
And cut.
Hey, hey, hey.